Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between. Jackie's got a sports show, and you are tuning into that very sports show. This episode going to be very football heavy. The combine happened, some free agency stuff, some releases, some non-guys getting non-franchise tags, whatever the hell that means. I think we're going to talk about some Caleb Williams because he seems to have made the news with a couple of his decisions over the weekend regarding the combine. Going to be a short episode. I say that, and it's going to end up being 30 minutes. But how y'all doing? How was the weekend? I hope it was well. I hope that your week is going well to this point, and I hope it goes good for the rest of the time. Like I said, thank you for tuning into the show. If you want to help me out, if you appreciate the show and you like the show, make sure you like, rate, and share, especially rating, especially sharing. That's what helps this show grow. All my socials and everything will be in the description. And the final thing I will say in terms of self promotion is Red Light Homies came out yesterday. We talked bad habits. Go check that out. YouTube, Spotify. That is Red Light Homies. I'd much appreciate it. And do the same things over there that you do over here. Let's jump right into it. Russell Wilson is being released from the Denver Broncos come March the 11th. I think we all were expecting this. The relationship between the Broncos and between Russell Wilson was not great anymore. It really hadn't been great ever since they signed him. You remember when it came out that the Denver Broncos GM, I think, when the first round was happening or when their projected pick was going on, they just turned on Russell Wilson highlights and laughed to themselves. Not looking so great right now, huh? Russell Wilson is now a free agent. The Broncos are swallowing $85 million in cap space because they released him at this point. It's a lot of money, but they needed the break. Russell Wilson needed to get out of there. And I said when I made the video about it, I need to remember to breathe when I'm talking. I said when I made the video about it, Russell Wilson is going to be picked up, and he's going to be picked up as a starter. Why? Because GMs are going to look at the talent Russell Wilson is, the Super Bowl winning quarterback, the quarterback that was the entire Seattle Seahawks offense from like 2017 to 2019. They're going to see that, and they're going to say, hey, the Broncos had two different coaching staffs. One of them was historically bad, awful. So maybe that version of Russell Wilson is more a product of his atmosphere than his actual ability. Is he going to get as much money as the Broncos gave him? No. And I really think it comes down to the control. Russell Wilson, for the better part of a decade now, has been coddled both by the Seattle Seahawks and by the Denver Broncos. Melvin Gordon went on bussing with the boys when he played in Denver. And he said that Russ had his own office in the Denver building, his own office in Seattle. Multiple Seattle Seahawks players said that the Seahawks and Pete Carroll were coddling Russell Wilson or giving him a lot of power. Is the team going to be doing that? No, especially if he goes like to the Steelers, because that's where a lot of people are saying has the most interest, which makes sense. Veteran going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, dynamic quarterback that can stand in the pocket and sling it, but can run when he needs to. Not a running quarterback, a quarterback who can run. I would think the Steelers would want a more pocket guy. Maybe go after Kirk Cousins if he's available, but you want Russell Wilson, go after Russell Wilson. I think this pulls a lot of teams out from the Justin Fields situation, because now you're not going to have to trade first round picks to get a Kirk Cousins or to get a Russell Wilson. You're going to have to trade a first round pick for Justin Fields. You're going to have to trade a first round pick for Justin Fields. Whether or not you think that's fair, that's what the Bears value him at. Especially with the teams looking at him, want a quarterback. And this isn't a Trey Lance situation. Justin Fields has been a starter and has had games where he can be a very capable starter. I don't know how this got onto Justin Fields. Let's run him back to Russell Wilson. Now, the landing spots for Russell Wilson are pretty much the same as Justin Fields: Vikings, Raiders, Steelers, Falcons, all these guys. But it seems like the Steelers are the most aggressive when going after Russell Wilson. As I said, he's not going to be a backup anywhere. Russell Wilson will be a starter in 2024. Now, if he's a starter in 2025, that's yet to be seen. Does he revert back to 2019? I don't think that can fully happen, but I do think that he can revert to some version of that. So it'd be interesting. It's very interesting. I mentioned Kirk Cousins, and I was reading up on Justin Fields. Came across an article talking about the Vikings' relationship with Kirk Cousins. The GM and what's his name? Kevin O'Connell, the head coach for the Vikings, love Kirk Cousins. Love Kirk Cousins, and they said that bond only grew stronger as the season went on. When Kirk Cousins got hurt, that bond only grew stronger. But it seems like the Vikings still want to move off of him, even though they love him so much. Apparently, their interest is moving towards Justin Fields. Now, is that going to happen? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Division rival, are the Bears going to do that? Do the Bears care? Do they really not believe that much in Justin Fields? As we're about to talk about, Justin Fields is leaving. The Bears are in love with Caleb Williams. Justin Fields is out of there. It's mixed signals being sent, and I know that's the name of the game when it comes to free agency, when it comes to the draft, when it comes to trades. Teams want to put out a bunch of nonsense. You saw the Cardinals treated Josh Rosen, for an instance, or for an example. I know it's a bunch of crap to throw a lot of teams off, throw the media off, which is fun, but when you're trying to get to the bottom of what these teams are actually doing, it's annoying. Big news for one of the best edge rushers, one of the best DNs in the league. I believe he plays DN. Brian Burns is not re-signing with the Panthers because Brian Burns is going to cost a lot of money. Brian Burns is going to cost a lot of money, and the Panthers just don't want to do it. David Tepper, you know what? His name's not David Tepper anymore. I hate when people give unnecessary nicknames. This dude's name is David Tepper because he is so hot-headed and he's such a loser. David Tepper and that front office seeming not wanting to pay their best defensive player by far, head and shoulders above everybody else on that defense. Brian Burns is the best defensive player on that team, and he is going to get a paycheck. This isn't a situation where this isn't like Lamar Jackson last season, where you saw reports on he wanted to test free agency, but no one was giving him anywhere close to what he wants. Brian Burns is a somewhat young edge rusher, one of the best in the league, and teams will pay for that. Teams will pay for that. I'm immediately looking at Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta has a stupid amount of money. It depends on what they want to do at quarterback, but they need edge help. Brian Burns will bring edge help to the Falcons. Of course, it's a division rival, but I haven't heard anything in terms of Brian Burns being so loyal to the Panthers that he wouldn't go to a division rival, say like Derrick Henry's case. So it's going to be interesting. Brian Burns is going to get a fat paycheck. Make no mistake about it. Brian Burns is going to get a fat ass paycheck. But it's going to be interesting to see where. Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle for the Dolphins, also hitting free agency, also not getting franchise tagged, which is surprising. The Dolphins' defense is not a great defense. Losing one of your best players is not the move, and you're not going to be able to replace Christian Wilkins just like that. You just won't. And being that you won't be able to replace Christian Wilkins just like that, the defensive line is going to get worse. Yes, you still have Bradley Chubb. Yes, you still have Jalen Phillips, but both of those guys have a very long history. Bradley Chubb, not very long, but a pretty decent history with injuries. You can't really trust him to stay on the field the entire season. I think that this is a failure by the Miami Dolphins. It doesn't bode well for that defensive line. We'll see what they do in free agency. We'll see what they do in the draft. Maybe they can target like a Braden Fisk, as I brought up last week in the second round. That is he as good as Christian Wilkins? I I wouldn't say so. Is anybody that's available right now or available in the draft that the Dolphins have a realistic chance at anywhere close to Christian Wilkins? I shouldn't say anywhere close, but close to Christian Wilkins? No. This is a failure by the Dolphins. But cap casualties, it happens. Mike Evans. Mike Evans, after reports come out that he wasn't going to re-sign with the Buccaneers, he re-signs with the Buccaneers, which makes me think the Buccaneers are really going to try to stick with Baker, see where that leads them. I think that's a mistake. And the reason I say that was Mike Evans was very vocal about how he wanted to stay with Baker and he wanted Baker to stay the quarterback. Like I said, I don't know how exactly that is going to work out for them. I don't think it's going to work out well. Baker Mayfield, I compared him to the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. He'll come in there, he'll provide some good energy to the locker room, and he'll be a bridge quarterback right now. Right now, a couple years from now, he'll be a decent bridge quarterback like Ryan Fitzpatrick was for the Bills, for the Jets, even for the Buccaneers for a season. But he's not the long term starter. He's just not good enough to be. He's not going to take you anywhere special. So that worries me about the Buccaneers. But Mike Evans resigns, you get your best receiver back, you get a possible Hall of Famer, in my opinion, a probable Hall of Famer. First ballot, I don't know, no real big accolades, but you can't have no season your entire career. His entire career, he's never had a season in which he did not get at least 1,100 yards. That is stupid, stupid productive. Especially when you see, like, oh, he did a lot of that with quarterbacks like Ryan Fitzpatrick, Mike Glennon, Jameis Winston, who was thrown to the other team more than his team. You know what I mean? That's all that I picked up on. I also saw that it's official that Saquon Barkley is hitting free agency, couldn't get a deal done. Looking at the Texans, I believe I talked about that last week. We'll see what happens there. I really hope he doesn't go to the Texans because I don't want to see him twice a year. I'm going to be honest. Now let's talk. The combine went on, and last Thursday or last Friday, I talked about Xavier Worthy. I talked about a couple guys, Braden Fisk, a couple of the linebackers. I talked about a couple of guys. But Caleb Williams made some decisions, and I'm sorry I'm fidgeting so much if you're watching the YouTube video, but Caleb Williams made some decisions that is bringing a lot of criticism, as it seems like everything he does. Let's get into him. So first off, let me just mention it. First off, he declined to throw. Didn't throw at the NFL scouting combine. His reason being that he played 30-something games. Go watch me throw in real time. That was his quote. That was a little sassy. that had a massive hint of attitude and ego. You can say what you want. I think people hate on him too much, but I get the reasoning, right? Because throwing in a t-shirt and shorts doesn't mean you're going to be a great quarterback. You saw Joe Milton lighting it up, people gooing and gawing, eyeing and oohing at Joe Milton throwing it 80 yards down the field. Dude's got a cannon for an arm. He's not a great quarterback. So I get the sentiment of like me going out there and just throwing in shirts and shorts doesn't mean anything. Go see what I can do in the game. That's what I'm going to do for you on the field. I get that. But just this answer seemed pretty sassy, especially the way he said it. Go watch how he said this quote. It was pretty sassy. And then he declined to provide medical history at the combine. Declined to do medical examinations for all 32 teams. His reasoning being not all 32 teams can draft him. He knows he's going in the top 10. That's not some egotistical statement. That's not narcissism. That is every single mock draft has this dude in the top 5, much less the top 10. Top 3, much less the top 5, and even much, much less than the top 10. So really, I get it. And then you say, well, that what he's doing medical examinations on his visits to different teams. He just didn't want to do one for every team at the scouting combine. I don't think that's a character issue. I just think like sure the headline's going to say he declined medical examinations, but it's not going to go into it. Stop reading headlines. You know what I'm saying? I told you that so many times past couple podcasts. If you see a headline, read. If you see a headline and it pisses you off, read it. Read the article. Look it up. It's easy to see a headline and start freaking out about it. Especially when it's like you just see a tweet, you just see an article headline, you see a Facebook post, you see an Instagram, you see a TikTok where Caleb Williams denied medical examinations. But when you read his reasoning, all 32 teams won't have a chance at me. I know that, so I'm not doing medical examinations. I'm not going through all that headache for teams that don't have anywhere close to a chance at drafting me. I'll do it on my visits. That's what he said. That's what he said, and that's fine. That's fine when you read into it. Now, if you just see Caleb Williams declines medical headlines, and then that's after you already heard that this dude denied throwing at the combine, then you're like, oh, this guy's a prick. No, not really. You know who is a prick in his camp? His father. Let's talk Caleb Williams' daddy. So his father is responsible for it coming out that Caleb wanted partial ownership of the team. That was not Caleb Williams. That was his father. He's very wary of agents and very outspoken. I get that. I get being wary of agents. There's a lot of guys that can take advantage of you. But, come on. Very outspoken. I said that because in the league, there are parents that are outspoken. We mentioned OBJ's dad. Brandon Ayuk's brother is talking. I believe it was Zach Wilson's mom, or it was another quarterback's mom that did some things at the draft. There's a lot of family members that just need to shut up. I think we all collectively, as sports fans, should just stop listening to family members of players. Like the only good one, the only entertaining one, and even then he took it a little far, was the VAR ball with Mello, Jello, and Angelo. I always forget their names. I think Jello and Angelo is the same guys. There was LaMelo, so LeVar's the dad. There was LaMelo, there was LaAngelo. Who is the other one? Because I think Melo's the one on the Hornets. Angelo was the guy who was just never in the NBA and actually got into some trouble in China. And then there's the Bulls point guard. And maybe I'm getting it confused. But that's the only family member to where, yeah, he was talking a lot, but he made a whole brand out of it. He did some shows that were entertaining. Well, I thought it was annoying, but looking back on it, it's pretty entertaining. Outside of that, dude, where you just have family members bitching about the team, about teammates, about the atmosphere, shut up. Shut up. Us as sports fans just need to stop listening to these people. It's just annoying. His dad seems a little helicopter, hovering over his boy. He does control a lot of the business side of Caleb Williams. His boy is wild. He controls a lot of the business side of Caleb's life, which I don't think is a problem. Caleb Williams might just not be as intelligent as his father, rely on his father a lot, which honestly, it seems like dude comes from a great family. I think his father, as much as he talks too much, and as much as it seems like he's a little too controlling. Caleb Williams' father seems like he just cares, wants the best for his kid, as all helicopter parents do. And you saw he hopped in his mom's arms, cried after a tough loss. It seems like he has a great family structure. But these were some apparently red flags of Caleb Williams, his father, and some of his character issues. I got this from an article from the Sports News, the writer being Mr. David Suggs. And honestly, the father is not a red flag of Caleb Williams. Um, Actually, Cliff Kingsbury was interviewed, USC offensive coordinator, USC offensive coordinator at the time Caleb Williams was there, and said that his father may have shown up at practice once, maybe. He was at every game, but he may have shown up at practice once. They never really heard from him. So it's not like the father is going to be on top of the teams, this is how you should treat my son. He should be doing this, not this, whatever. He might be a little loud on social media, which is going to turn off a lot of teams, but Caleb Williams is stupid talented. Caleb Williams seems like a good kid. We're about to get into the quote. So, yeah, while his father would be annoying, I don't think it's going to ward off teams, and I don't think it's a indictment on Caleb Williams' character. Now, his possible character issues, I have still yet to see one. I didn't like how he came out and didn't talk to the press conference, like the presser, after I think the Utah loss. He didn't talk to anybody. And that was a bit of an issue for me, but it's better than Cam Newton just sitting up there with a pouty face, not answering questions and whining. People, and I'm not even going to touch on the fake dumb shit ones of he paints his nails and wears a dress. Kill yourself. Kill yourself. I'm not joking. Honestly, if you are sitting up here and you are bitching and you are complaining about Caleb Williams painting his nails and wearing a dress, kill yourself. Off yourself. That's probably going to get this deleted from YouTube. I don't care. It's not coming off of Spotify. End your life. That's a little heavy, but I really don't care. I'm so fucking sick. I'm so fucking sick of people bitching and complaining about how a person dresses. Get over yourself. Get over yourself. It was so annoying to hear person after person after person after inbred hillbilly after inbred hillbilly after dumb fuck redneck after wannabe Andrew Tate, after Andrew Tate clone. Caleb Williams wears a dress. Caleb Williams paints his nails. He's not a leader of men. Kill yourself. End your life. You don't deserve. You are a shit stain on this fucking planet. You are an annoying little cunt. My God. Because who cares? Who cares? And we're about to get into a quote that's going to prove you dumb fucks wrong. Who cares if someone wants to paint their nails? Who cares? I've seen people say, oh, why do you want to do something that's traditionally feminine? There's a lot of emo people, and I think it looks cool. I think it looks cool. I listen to a lot of Ghostman, a lot of Scar-Lord. My favorite professional wrestler was Jeff Hardy, and they always painted their nails to match their outfit. Ghostman and Scar-Lord, it was mainly black and white. Jeff Hardy, it was purple, it was black, it was yellow, it was a lot of different things. I think it completes an outfit when done right. Who cares? And with Caleb Williams, he did something funny with it. It said fuck Utah or fuck Notre Dame or something like that. Who cares? Who cares? Get a life. I'm sorry I went a little hard on that, but it gets me so fucking angry. But this quote that I've been hyping up. Albert Breer did an NFL Insider report, and I'll just give you the quote that I pulled. Quote, in dispatching his scouts to all-star games, Poles, who is Ryan Poles, the GM of the Chicago Bears, directed evaluators to ask about the 2022 Heisman winner when they interviewed Oklahoma Sooners or USC players, or others who crossed paths with Caleb Williams. The returns were good. Sometimes you can get awkward pauses. If players are lukewarm on teammates they're asked about, it was the opposite in this case. The mention of Caleb Williams' name brought a lot of smiles when talking to Oklahoma Sooner players and USC players. This guy loves his teammates. This guy loves to compete. You may bring up, and this really puts down the whole thing where USC scored a touchdown in their bowl game and said, "We're a team now." Everybody's like, "Oh, you're talking about Caleb Williams?" Completely making an assumption, and you know what they say about assumptions. It really puts that to bed. His teammates love him. He seems like a great leader. Everybody around him seems to love him. The Chicago Bears sat down with him and did a usual interview, the usual thing, fell in love with the guy. So his father, while being a headache, not really a knock on him. His character issues are pretty much non-existent. It's people making a lot of assumptions out of nothing. Now, if you want on the field criticisms of Caleb Williams, my boy Colton Edwards has had some film studies about him. Now, a lot of them are just a compilation of like, oh, here's some plays he could have done better, which I think is annoying. But he has some criticisms of Caleb Williams that I see as pretty valid. He's not a perfect prospect, but he's a great prospect. And he has all the tools to be a great NFL quarterback. Let's hop off of him. Yes, he's been hyped up for the last couple of years of being one of the greatest quarterback prospects of all time. He's been hyped up as the number one pick immediately when he comes out of college. But now that every team is after him, now that the Chicago Bears have fully fallen in love with him, now that you've heard his own teammates talk highly about him, get off of him. Get off of him. Just remember, this is just a kid trying to live his dream. That's all I got to say. Follow me on Twitter at jjester615. Follow the show's Twitter at Jackie's Show. Follow my TikTok. I try to post 3, 4, 5 times a day at JackieBoySports. Email me questions, comments, concerns, whatever you want to do. OldJackieBoy1021 at gmail.com. That is OLE JackieBoy1021 at gmail.com. Love you. Appreciate you. And I will see y'all on Friday. Peace.